Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear Review. And today we're coming to you from San Diego, California. Nice, warm, sunny spot. Not the usual cool Montana location that I'm actually filming the majority of my reviews from. But today we're going to be coming to you from San Diego. And we're looking at a watch, the Pagani 1778, which is a sport watch that has just some outstanding features. This might be the first perfect watch out of the AliExpress catalog and in my hands for review. So let's go take a look at this watch, look at the 5 things we typically look at, which are size, fitment, finish, accuracy, and then legibility and lume. The Pagani PD1778 really is a great value from AliExpress. It is an homage watch, just leave it at that, but at the same time, the value that this watch provides, I think, is really close, if not a perfect rating when I go through this. So we're going to go through the 5 typical things we go through: size, fitment, finish, accuracy, legibility, and lume. And then we'll go through the pros and cons, some uses for this watch, and just my overall impressions of this watch, which I'm going to say it right off the top of the bat, right off the top here. So I'm going to say this right off the top. I am really impressed with this watch. I took it out of the box, and my first impression was this is a great looking sport watch. Now, I saw that online when I ordered it, and I ordered it prior to the sale. I was really impressed by the look of this watch. So to me, this watch really had a lot of things going for it just from looking at it online. In person, I think this watch does a great job. So for those of you interested in this watch, I think you're going to find this is not a risky purchase whatsoever. I think this is actually a solid sport watch, and I think you're going to be way impressed by this watch, because I really am. I showed this to my wife, and she rarely says anything about the watches that come through the mailbox into our home. And she looked at this watch and says, now that's a good looking watch. So to me, this is already in that category of this is a potential 10 out of 10. So overall size of this watch, I love the proportions of this watch. It's a 40 millimeter case. It has a 12.5 millimeter height off the wrist. That might be a little bit tall because most dive watches kind of start in that 12.5 millimeter range, and they have a bezel, rotating bezel on there. So yeah, it might be in the little higher end of that, but I still like the proportions of this watch a lot. Now, it's a 22 millimeter strap, which I think gives the lugs a look of stability on the watch case. So sometimes when you get a 20 millimeter strap on there, the lugs look a little bit too close together, and the watch just kind of looks a little precarious as it's on your wrist, because it's such a narrow strap that's attached to the lugs on the case. So to me, I like the 22 millimeter on this one. I think it fits really well. I think if it was a smaller case, it'd probably look a little bit too wide. But I think the stance of the lugs on this watch as a result of that look great. So let's talk about the fitment of this watch. This watch fits great. There are no complaints. I have 0 complaints about the fitment of this watch. I have 0 complaint about how the pieces fit together. The strap really works well with the lugs. There's no pinch points. It's not stiff at all when it comes to rotating. The keepers, sometimes you get on AliExpress, you get one of the loose keepers, the one that slides up and down on the strap. Sometimes that one's overly loose. It's too wide. It really doesn't do much. And this one, I think, does a great job of just kind of staying put. It's about the right size for the tag end of the strap that comes through the buckle, and this second keeper does a great job of holding that in place. So the overall fitment of this watch, as the pieces go together, as it fits on the wrist, is outstanding. The finish of this watch, we're going to spend the majority of the time out of these 5 categories on finish, because there is so much to talk about with this watch. Take a look at that center dial and the strap. I just think the matching up of the faux carbon fiber look on the strap and the carbon fiber look in the center portion of the dial, the bullseye of the dial, is a great matchup. You have a little bit of red stitching on the strap. As you guys can see, there's also some red accents on the dial as well. You have a red second hand. This is just a great overall cohesive design. There are very few watches that really get this cohesive, and this is one that does a great job with this. Now, it's an homage, so they're going off of a model, and they're copying, or they're whatever, modeling, homaging, whatever you want to call it, off of that quite well. But they still have to execute it, and I think the execution on this is done very, very well. The hour markers on here are fantastic. The 12, 6, and 9 stand out from the other hour markers. They differentiate themselves. So, nighttime, on the nightstand type look at the watch, I think you're going to find what the time is very easily as far as orientation goes. I love the handset. The hour hand, the minute hand, great proportions, great size. It's a sport watch feel, so I don't need that, really big handset like you might want on a field watch or on a dive watch or a pilot watch. This is a sport watch, which is kind of like in between that dive watch and dress watch look to it. And I think this watch really kind of lends itself a little bit more towards the dressy side. So therefore the handset really could be on that slender side. The red second hand, again, I am known for, I think, I don't know if known for is the right word, but I just love a colored second hand because I think it just gives that watch dial a little pop of color, and it's always moving. So there's this piece of color that's moving around on the dial, which I really, really like. Has a nice grippy crown and it's signed. You have a great polished bezel. The polishing goes all the way down to the top side of the lugs, which I think really gives the watch, when you're looking at it, obviously as the wearer of the watch, there's a lot of polish to this watch, which goes back to my thing that this is really more of a dressy sport watch. So if you're planning on wearing this watch in more sporty situations, or maybe situations where it might be banged around a little bit, I'd kind of second guess that a little bit, just because of the amount of polish that is on the bezel, that's on the top of the lugs. That might get a little bit more excessive when it comes to scratches and micro scratches. Now the side of the case is brushed, and it does a great job, I think, of just having a nice, very good pattern, very even. I don't see any issues with the brushing on the side of the case. You have a display case back that is a literal screw-in case back. There are 6 screws that hold the case back in. Let's take a closer look at the dial, because the dial itself has a lot of interesting things to it. Not only does it have the carbon fiber pattern in the center of the dial, it also has great hour markers. It has a great second track around the outside of the hour markers. But if you look on the inside portion of the hour markers, you're going to see another minute track on the inside with some red highlights on every 5 minutes. So you have kind of the second track on the outside, and you have a minute track, if you will, on the inside of those hour markers. Now, between those 2 markers, you have a flat black dial, and it really just, it kind of gets skipped over because the center of the dial is so much more attractive and kind of eye-catching that you go right to that carbon fiber look on the inside of the dial. And forget that there is this beautiful, really flat black track around the hour markers. And I spent a little time looking at it with a magnifying glass, and I just really like that contrast between the center dial and the portion of the dial that goes around and underneath the hour markers. So to me, the dial has a lot of texture. It has a lot of interesting things to look at. You have applied markers with lume in there. You have a great handset. You have a colored second hand. And then you have the date window, which I think fits in really well with the overall design. The numbers aren't too bad. I'm generally able to read the date on this one, so the date wheel is not too small as far as the numbers are concerned. So to me, this whole dial has just a great overall look to it. Let's talk about accuracy. Now, what's in this watch? It's an NH35, and on the time grapher, it came in at just over 15 seconds, positive 15 seconds per day, which is within spec for sure. 0 on the beat errors, so everything looks really normal when it comes down to a Seiko NH35 movement. Legibility in lume is good. I love the legibility. The legibility is outstanding, actually. The legibility is very easy to read. The great handset, great hour markers. Again, the 12, 6, and 9 are differentiated from the other hour markers, so it's easy to orient the watch on your wrist or even off of a nightstand. So to me, the legibility of this watch is great. So what about the lume on this watch? The lume on this watch is okay, and I would say it's barely okay. It's a little bit better than the Pagani PD1778. This one is a little bit better. It's also uneven. If you look at the time lapse here, I'm going to show the video. If you look at the time lapse, the lume just appears to be uneven between the markers, and it really is too bad. This really is the knock that Pagani gets on a regular basis. 100 meters of water resistance. You have a sapphire crystal, great crown, great fitting watch. You have some finishing on the side case. Everything's polished up from the top down. When you look from the top of the watch, it has polish across everything. Great applied markers, great looking dial. This watch really is going to score high. I love the look of this watch. My wife loves the look of this watch. The cons of this watch really is the lume. I just don't like the fact that the lume is as bad as it is. It's also uneven. And one minor thing, and I think this is because there's so many other watch brands that are out there on AliExpress that are starting to use quick release straps. I'm not going to ding it because of that, but I just think that companies need to start paying attention to that one detail. Quick release straps, if you have a bracelet, the on-the-fly adjustable clasp. Those are the kind of the new standards I think people are looking for when it comes down to the strap or the bracelet on a watch. What are the uses of this watch? I think you can go from casual all the way up to semi-formal. I think the ideal sweet spot for this is probably that office watch and professional watch where it just has a lot of polish to it, kind of a little bit more of a formal setting. As a casual watch, it might be kind of blingy, but at the same time, it's really not. It's a sport watch. And I love the faux carbon fiber on the strap. I love that same look in the center portion of the dial. The red accents throughout, just a really interesting looking watch overall. So what's the overall score for this watch? Is this a 10 out of 10? No, it's a 9.8 out of 10. It's really, really close. And like the PD1717, my only concern, my only complaint about this watch is the lume. And that's what I thought it would be when I purchased the watch. And I was hoping that Pagani would add a little bit more lume, a little more attention to the kind of lume they put on there. And they just didn't do it. It's just erratic. So 9.8 out of 10. I think it's a great watch. I think this is a highly recommend. It's a great looking watch. It fits great. I love the strap. The strap to me is probably the biggest surprise. It may look like it's cheap, but it's very flexible. And from my experience so far, it's not fraying anywhere. And maybe over time, the top portion of that kind of hybrid strap is going to show its quality. But for right now, it looks great. So there you go, 9.8 out of 10. And put in the comments down below what you think of this watch. Check out my website, realidealgear.com, if you're looking for any of these watches that I put up there for sale. They're definitely at a discount price, but check those out. I update those periodically. I lower the price on them also periodically as well, just to kind of keep these things moving. Can't hang on to all these watches. That's my outlet store of sorts for some of these watches. So put your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. My name is Tim. This has been another Real Ideal Gear Review, and we'll catch you guys next time.